We also think the membranes got fouled somewhat during startup, and one of the canisters that came shipped with carbon that helps remove oils residual oils that might go through the system. It was signed off by the firm that, supposedly loaded up the carbon, and then signed off by Ashton that, yep, because it's a sealed container and it was put in. But when we went to go change the carbon, as you periodically have to do, and we opened that one up for the first time, there was no carbon in it. So then we started looking at some of the membranes, and they do have some signs of some fouling from some of the oil, which, they have like a 10-year life, and some of them have lost as much as 30% capacity because of that oil. So it's not likely they're going to last 10 years if they're already down 30%, right off the bat. At any rate, those are things we've been trying to get resolved and have been unable to. So we finally notified the surety that we want them to pay to finish all the things that are lacking or that we still need to do and fix. And that's where we're at right now, having discussions with them. And it'll probably, be one of those ugly little battles or fights, and we'll see if we can get some mutually reasonable resolution. But in the meantime, yes, we still run the plant. There's still some little issues we find that, like with any new project, the debugging. But it's a new process for us, and the gas is a little more of a risk when you're dealing with pure high pressure gas out there. So we just want to make sure we're safe and doing things right. And I just wanted to throw that on there just in case you hear more about it or whatever. Faribault Foods, they're primarily a canning factory over on the east side of Tucson. They can beans and different products, but their discharge from their processes are quite strong, heavy BOD loading. And when they discharge into the sewer, the immediate area isn't so bad, but downstream a ways where we get to a residential area, by that time, the system has a chance to off gas because of that high strength and creates quite the odor issue. So we've been working with them for a fairly long time, and they've been fairly reasonable to work with, trying different things. They also have a system in Minnesota. I think that's corporate and their main facility in Minnesota. But we haven't got complete resolution. So we issued a renewal of their permit, and we put in a compliance schedule. They don't have to meet it now, but at the end of that 1-year permit renewal, everything better be in order, and they better be achieving the targets and the limitations that we put in the permit. And so, they're not real happy with that, but it is what it is. And we have to, and it's not just the odors and the nuisance and the quality of life for the people downstream of that facility, but it also creates a lot of corrosion. Hydrogen sulfide gas in the sewer creates a lot of corrosion on our system. And so they have to resolve the issue because they're causing harm to the utility and to the residents. We just had another meeting with the town of Sahuarita, and in concept, we've agreed that we should partner on a regional facility down south. From our perspective, that facility would replace the Green Valley operation and the Arivaca Junction that at one point in the not too distant future would flow to Green Valley. So they'll just keep on going to this new facility once we build it. and Sarita, both our growth area and the Sarita management area, that as it grows, would all flow to the same plant. And now we're working on the detail. All right, how do we make this IGA or agreement work? We've kind of indicated, well, if you want to be an asset owner, you pay whatever percent of the volume that we construct you pay that percentage of the capital cost. And likewise, we would do the same. We've intended to operate it, and they would pay the operational and maintenance costs for their percentage of volume, and we would do it for our percentage of volume. They would own the effluent associated with their flow, and we would own the effluent with our flow and do with it what we will, for whether it's credits or, whatever, wherever it goes in the future. But all those details have to be worked out. And there's many other scenarios, just like our Agua Nueva facility. We did do a design, build, operate, and have a third party operator over there. So that's still a conversation, but there's just a lot of details to get to that final agreement. But in concept, we all agree it makes sense for both entities, and it'd be nice to work together and have truly a regional facility that serves whatever jurisdictions would flow to that facility. Eric, you have a question on that one?
Yeah, 2 points or two questions really. One is the first one, it deals with if I understand correctly, Sahuarita is planning to adjust their recharge potential too. And so is that going to have any effect in what we're looking at here? The second question deals with the Sahuarita has a plant. Is that going to be closed down and incorporated into the complete new fixture that we're going to look at? Thank you.
Yep. And of course, I would never go on record as answering Sarita's questions, but yes, they're at least in our discussion on capacities and stuff. Initially, they want to just use a smaller percentage of a potential new facility for all of their growth areas outside the little footprint of Rancho Sahuarita, where their plant is located currently. They went through some design and minor modifications to re-rate, increase the capacity of that plant to handle all of the Rancho Sahuarita flows. But there's a lot of areas outside Rancho Sahuarita that they want to develop, and so they want all that new flow to go to a new plant. But in the future, after that plant has been paid for financially, they think it makes sense to divert that flow to the new facility. And at that point, depending on each of our respective growths, Sahuarita could be the higher percentage of flow rate, possibly, So, we're just looking at all those details and coming up with an agreement, looking around to benchmark similar agreements on how we can, plan for those changes over time and each year, tune up the deal. But yes, that is part of the discussion, that the current Rancho Sahuarita plant at some future date would go to this new regional facility. And also, they do have some extra recharge capacity in their lagoons or their recharge basins. So that's one of the big questions we still have to answer. Where and how will we use the effluent? Of course, direct potable reuse, or what's the new term? Enhanced water treatment. I forget now the term already, but that's a possibility. There's still conversation with us and the town that the Phoenix Zoo still wants to put in a safari park over there near the facility. In fact, we had to get their okay because they were leasing that land. They had like several hundred acres, maybe a full section of land, and we bought 50 from the mine who they were leasing it from, because that's their intention, is to have a safari park and glamping and other things over there. And they thought, well, it would be great. You have this wonderful effluent in the future. Maybe we can put water features in at the safari park. And as long as we can get recharge credits, that might be an option. Of course, we're going to be working more closely with ADWR to get recharge credits in the river. Not the normal 50%, the old way we used to get 50% of the credit for what recharged in the river. Well, not too long ago, it went to 95% here at Tres Rios, Agua Nueva, and the city's heritage project. But down there at Green Valley, it's still under the 50% model. So we have to do some lobbying and some negotiations to get it to 95. But we may ultimately put recharge water back in the river, and that would be an option with a new Sahuarita Regional to also recharge it there. And then it's very close to the CAP recharge area and a CAP transportation. And if nobody else is using CAP, why couldn't we use it? If they're not going to send any Colorado water this way, there's some infrastructure down there too. So there's lots of options, but those are details as we get into that. I just want you to know that we're still moving forward with negotiations and a plant. But it's important to note, and I'll wink at Asia, even though I don't see her picture up there, but the CIP because of, the timing of both of our needs, we're looking at, well, by the end of anywhere from 2030 to 2032, we should have a new plant in operation. Well, if you're going to put a plant in operation in 30, pretty soon you got to get the design going, go through your permitting process, public comments, all those stakeholder involvements. And then, it's probably total of maybe up to 3 years of construction. So we're not too far. So we've actually put that in our CIP budget, and that's pushing an upward pressure. We moved it a little forward from where it was before. At any rate, that's all I got on that one, just kind of keeping you in the loop on it.
Excuse me, Jackson.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, if you could clarify, you said Phoenix Zoo and you said Safari Park. How is that affecting us down here, and where is this going to be at? We're down here in Pima County. They're up in Maricopa.
Yeah, they're manifest destiny. They're looking at putting a satellite activity here with that safari park here in Pima County. But it's based out of the Phoenix Zoo. And, it started as maybe like a rehab facility for some of their exotic wildlife, but then it grew into this concept, and they still are looking for funding to be able to do it, but it's a high priority of theirs.
And where were they thinking of putting this?
It's right near Pima Mine Road and Old Nogales Highway, where we bought 50 acres from the mine, Freeport McMoran, so we could build a plant there to be the regional location. And they're right adjacent to that piece, and they're just leasing it from the mine. It's not their land, it's leased from the mine. But
Is that Sarita, that area?
I don't think that's in the town's boundaries, but I can't remember. I can't remember.
Okay, thank you.
Does somebody else have a question on that?
Any other questions?
Okay, let me run to my last two items real quick. One was the RV dump site policy. And I thought I mentioned it before, but that's where, we've been noticing there's a few locations that it's pretty easy to see where people can dump their RVs into our sewer system, but it's unregulated, unchecked, unmetered. It's a risk, because nefarious things could happen as well, when it's an unprotected area. So we sent out a mission to have our staff go try to identify all of the RV dump sites. And they did a phenomenal job and found like 30 or 35. I don't have the numbers in front of me. A few of them are just kind of private for like a trailer park or something, but we identified them, which was round one. And now we're starting to do some education, and we're trying to figure how do we want to manage those? Because if we go in some harsh enforcement policy, well, then people are going to start discharging to the washes or the car washes or, wherever they're going to go. So we want to make it functional, but we want to make sure we're not getting anything, inappropriate discharged into the sewer. And so we're working on our own thoughts on policies and starting to have conversation with the owners of these 30 plus locations about some things they could do to clean up their site and how to manage them. But ultimately, we're going to make a formal policy out of it, and you guys will hear more about it once we get to that point. But just giving you a heads up on that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are they dumping into your sewer?
Yes.
And so you're just getting large influx from those.
Well, I imagine it's fairly small. It's an RV tank,
Yeah.
compared to what we treat. But what's to say somebody with some bad chemicals or
Right.
bad product right now, there's many places you can pull up and not even be noticed and discharge your
Yeah.
contents. And
Yeah.
one of the like Speedway gas stations has an RV dump site, and people pull up there. And when we went and talked to the store people that kind of manage it, they don't really manage it. It's just out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. People pull up and they said, "Oh yeah, we have the dog groomer's van every week. We have the carpet cleaner van every week. All these different things." And we're like, well, what are they using? What are they doing? So that's why we just thought we need to get our arms around it and not force it to have negative consequences if we overdo it, but find some reasonable way to have some oversight on it. So that's the dilemma we're in right now. And it's been going on like that for a long time. And then one that I just wanted to bring up to this group. Last month, when you talked, there was some conversation that our debt service ratio of 1.2, but that is not the correct. It's 1.3 is what we voted on. You know, I think in some past time it might have been 1.2, but right now the approved value from this committee is 1.3 that we target. And I just wanted to clarify if there was misspeak or misrepresentation. We're all still at 1.3 until everybody agrees to change it to something different. 0.99 would be fine. I'm just kidding. All right, that's all I have unless there's any questions, and thank you.
Any questions for Jackson? Right, and then we will move on to the work plan. Everybody got a copy of the work plan in your package. So that's item 2, and we're going to go for draft approval. I want to open up for any comments from the group. You can see the Sonoran Institute Living River plant report is has been moved to October. So out of this early period, we had the discussion last time about the kinds of things that have to happen before the budget goes in, and that we should, leave room for that.
And we paired it with the SAPCO and CAPCO.
I know.
So that looks
really good. So we can have an environmental day.
exactly.
Yeah. And can you tell me what other changes you made? Just remind the group.
So we moved the Living River report down. Just kept this all focused on the budget and finance. We did add diversity, equity, and inclusion to May when Jackson does his personnel and key performance indicators. That seemed to flow well with that. We added in the open meeting law in August after the election. So any new members that we may have or new roles will be covered by Bobby. Let's see, the Sonoran River moved to October. Oh, we did break up the annual report. In the previous work plan, the annual report was just noted in August. So based on how things evolved this year, we did it for August and September. So August would be the review by the committee, and then September would be the final approval. Once all the comments have been approved by the committee, everything's done, this is the final approval. Just so that we have a little bit more leeway in the timeline. November is the long range plans. We added that in with the work plan.
That's great. And I see PAGs on there, which was something we've been adding sort of ad hoc. And
Exactly.
now it's there.
And then community relations and communications was added for December.
It's great. Any comments? I think this looks wonderful. I think it's improved and streamlined, and that's great. Anybody else have any comments? All right. Do I hear? So we're going to approve it at this
Right.
meeting. So I would call for a motion. So we have a motion to approve.
I move we approve the next year's work plan.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, and we have a work plan. Excellent.
Thank you.
Great. We'll move on to item 3, which is the financial subcommittee report, and we have Matt to talk about that.
Thanks, Claire. The subcommittee has not met since our last meeting. However, we do have a meeting scheduled for next month, Friday, January 26th. We will meet at 9 o'clock and go till about 11. And that meeting will be done via Teams. So Jeanette will distribute agenda and related materials well in advance, and we will do a deep dive into the proposed budget at that meeting. And the work plan, or the financial plan, sorry.
Thank you, Matt. We'll move on to the CIP subcommittee report, and we have Asia.
Thank you, Claire. Yes, we are also scheduled to meet in January. Jeanette, maybe you can help me. I know it's a Tuesday, right?
I think it's the 23rd.
Right. Okay. The 23rd in the afternoon. Also a Teams meeting. We'll be meeting for an hour, looking at the capital improvement program and also some of the financials related to that. So looking forward to that meeting. And nothing else to report.
Question, on email, I received CIP the 23rd. It said it was canceled, and then it was saying the 23rd, and I don't know which one's coming first. Are we having it on the 23rd?
Yes, I haven't
Yes.
sent an invite or anything like that, so. Yeah, because I haven't sent any invitations yet because it's too early. That could have been something old. I'm not sure.
I
don't
think this is Asia. I also received a cancellation. I think there was a, it was just like a correction in the note or something, and so it may have been
could have
just
been.
that. So,
Yeah, no invitations have been sent, so I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes if Jeanette sends an email and if there's anything wrong with it, I've seen you pull it back.
Yeah.
And so that's probably what you saw. And those are very, very commonly right next to each other. And then she'll send out a new thing, like if there's a typo or something in the email.
And just a heads up for Asia and that team, but also for finance on the call. You know, we've been internally discussing some of our capital needs, and besides Sarita, the plant there, and the big interceptor work too, moving forward a little bit. We also, this coming year, we had a new fast track University of Arizona project out east where they were going to be building some stuff at a tech park and putting in an 8-inch line to serve their needs, but it's right where our future plans are. So we're going to end up paying to put in a 24-inch line next year, and it's going to cost another big blip on the upward pressure of the capital. And then also we found, when we did ROMP, we did not replace our old digesters. But, we have 6 digesters. We built 2 new ones with ROMP, and we had 4 prior ones from the old facility. And that's just enough to treat biosolids per criteria with the time frame, and allows one out of service. But we're getting tighter and tighter with, little growth at a time. It slowly inches up. Plus, now the 4 digesters have operated another 10 years, and they're in some pretty rough shape. And we've been doing a lot more forensics and evaluation. And we think we need to build 2 more digesters. And that's a big cost that, needs to hit pretty soon as well. So a lot of good things to talk about, but definitely some more upward pressures on our capital needs.
So all of this sounds like it's leading toward a rate change.
I didn't say that, but
I'm just going to say my perspective of that would be that perhaps. So we're going to have an interesting year.
Yep.
A lot of good conversation, and really appreciate it. I think this is a great committee to help out on that. So. All right. So we're going to move on to item number 5, which is the period 5 expense and review summary. Isai Centeno?
Isai, I don't think Isai's on there, is he?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
oh,
I am.
there. I'm sorry.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'll share my screen. And I know the information was not sent out earlier due to the time constraint that we had. So I sent it out, and you guys should receive it here shortly. 1 second. Excellent. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we see it.
Excellent. I'm as big as possible. So for period 5 expense and revenue summary, we can see that our actuals for total O&M expenses we're at $35 million so far. Our projection, it is 98.2 million, giving us a negative variance of 1.4. If we scroll down, our total O&M expenses, including the contrast, depreciation, debt services, the actuals is 65.2, projections 176.5, with a negative variance of $559,000. And we go down to the revenue. So far, our actuals are 82.7 million. We're projected to receive 198.5 million, giving us a positive variance of 3.9, almost $4 million to the good. Questions so far?
I guess I do have a question. And when is this projection date?
The projection date?
Yeah, like the 3.9, when is that projected? Is that I'm a little confused on the timing of this. Is it this month or is it a year annual? I'm sorry.
Correct. When we do a projection, basically, we're projecting that's how we're going to finish the fiscal year.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, the actuals is up to period 5, which is the end of November.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Allison, you had a question?
I do, Isai. On the revenues, it looks like the projections match the adopted budget pretty much, except for other revenue, which is projected to be much higher than the budget. What is that? Oh, I see some of it higher interest rates. There might be one of the things.
Correct. Yeah, that's the majority of the big bulk of it is the interest rates that have been pretty good. So we've been receiving good interest rates on the money the wastewater has on their accounts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Perfect.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on to the Citizen Water Advisory Committee, and we have Allison to present on that.
Thank you, Claire. CWAC met on November 6th, and the director commented on a number of things that of interest, I think, to you all might be the Colorado River update. All the reservoirs are much higher than a year ago. Tucson Water's potable water demand is just about where it was last year, but reclaim use is down from 2022. Matt Narder from ADEQ spoke on PFAS and gave us an update on that. May I share my screen for a moment, Jeanette?
Of course.
Okay. So some of you may be familiar with PFAS. It's actually a group of chemicals. There's not one specific chemical. And it does impact groundwater, and it has in Tucson. The probable likely source has been firefighting foam used at the Air Force Base. And there are no drinking water standards for it currently, but EPA has been evaluating that, and they are proposing these standards 4 parts per trillion for PFOA, also for PFOS, and there will be hazard indexes for the set for the sum of the other PFAS chemicals. This is going to have a huge trickle-down effect. We're going to have more WRF sites, that's state Superfund, as a result of this. It's also going to require that responsible parties finally step up and do the cleanups that they'll have to do once this becomes an enforceable standard. the Department of Defense has not been doing much in this regard because there's no hammer. And so they're going to have to finally step up and do that. This is a very recalcitrant chemical. PFAS chemicals don't degrade naturally. That's why they're called forever chemicals. ADEQ has been going around the state sampling water supply systems, and approximately 19% of the large water providers in the state have at least one well that's impacted above the MCL. So, and 11% of the small providers are in the same situation. So it is a concern, and the state has allocated $25 million in ARPA funds to Tucson Water to do a pre-treatment for PFAS at TARP, the Tucson Airport remediation project. So, if you're in the hydrogeology business as I am, and as several of you are, we've always been dealing with emerging contaminants. When I first started my career, we'd never heard of this. Before that, we'd never heard of 1,4-dioxane. The one before that, I guess, was MTBE. These new chemicals keep coming on the radar, and you don't know to look for them until you know they even exist. So I don't know what the next emerging contaminant's going to be, but PFAS is a big one. It's going to be expensive to treat. And you're going to be hearing a lot more about it. The MCLs are expected to become law in early 2024. That concludes my report.
Hey, Allison, and I brought it up last time that the EPA is going to require across the country the 400 largest wastewater facilities to do some PFAS testing and their industrial side of their business. And both Agua Nueva and Tres Rios are two of the largest 400. So, we'll learn more about it as we go. But yeah, it's a continuing saga that fits with that. And I do have one question for you. You jumped on that. You mentioned the reclaimed water use was dropping or showing less. Was it an anomaly, or is it like golf courses have closed, or is there any explanation of why that changed?
There wasn't, and it's not a huge drop. And it's really just recently, in other parts of the year, it was higher. So, I would wait to see at the end of the year if maybe just it's a timing issue of when they made that report. It wasn't a big drop.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Allison.
Oh, I have one more thing. I have one more thing to say very quickly. We did vote on new officers, and Val Little is the new chair of CWAC starting in 2024. I will be the vice chair again in 2024 for CWAC. However, I just want to let you all, and I'll be continuing to be the representative for this board. But I am going to be moving sometime in 2024 out of state. And I told them all that when I agreed to run, and I'm just not sure when I'll be moving. There's a lot of issues. So I plan to be here as long as I can. And I told them I really enjoy being here and I learn a lot. So just a heads up on that.
Oh, that's really bummer though, that we would miss you so much.
If we would have known that, we would have made her an officer so we could have get more blood out of her before she leaves.
Well, thank you for the kind words.
Whoever's the replacement, we hope you will train them, because we always find your reports so interesting. So
well, CWAC has wonderful, capable people, and you'll get a good report, I'm sure.
All right, we're moving on to item H, which is future agenda items. Does anybody have a future agenda item other than what is on the plan for January, where we have the technical services engineering update, the 24-25 CIP 5-year plan review, and the 23-24 budget expense and review summary. That's all coming up in January. Any other future agenda items? I think we've already told you all of our agenda items. So I'll have a call to the audience, which I missed before. I am.
Well, I thought I just missed noting it.
Yeah.
Thought that was me.
I am like, check these puppies off. So call to the audience.
If you
None?
do it a second time, then we'll just say that was the first
Okay,
one.
is there a call to the audience? That's just for record on repeat. All right, hearing none, I'll call for adjournment. We need to vote on that as
You
well.
need a motion.
So motion to adjourn. Anybody?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Great. A
Second.
second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed,
Aye.
please.
Have a Merry
Y'all have a
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy
Yes,
holidays,
indeed.
everyone. See you next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Feliz Navidad.
Hearing-
Merry Christmas.
Come
Happy
next time.
Hanukkah.
for breakfast.
Thanks for the extra
Have a good
burros. we
day.
got over.
Well, I